And the next speaker is Justice Surya Kant from India.
Distinguished and eminent jurists on and off the dais, a very good morning. It is with deep humility and an abiding sense of constitutional responsibility that I rise to address this august assembly on behalf of the Indian judiciary. To speak on this platform is both a rare honor and an occasion for solemn reflection for me. I must congratulate the Commonwealth Lawyers Association for bringing this event together on a subject of such immense contemporary relevance. Friends, the Commonwealth represents more than a mere historical association. It is a principled fraternity of nations bound by shared history, values, and legal traditions. Despite our diverse cultures and systems of governance, we remain united in our pursuit of democratic ideals, constitutional governance, and human dignity. The adoption of the Commonwealth Chapter in 2013 marked a momentous occasion in the history of Commonwealth of Nations. This chapter has since then become the defining document as it enlists the core values and principles to which all our member states have committed themselves. India, as the world's largest constitutional democracy, has displayed an abiding sense of commitment to the Commonwealth's founding principles. Speaking on behalf of the institution I represent, I would like to highlight some of the Indian judiciary's endeavors through progressive interpretation of law and transformative adjudication, promoting constitutional morality, a leitmotif of the Commonwealth Charter 2. To begin with, Indian courts do not just interpret the law as a cold command, but as a living document of justice. This was indeed envisioned by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the chief architect of our Constitution, who had said, and I quote, "The Constitution is not a mere lawyer's document. It is a vehicle of life, and its spirit is always the spirit of the age." These words underscore the interpretive responsibility of constitutional courts, especially in nations like ours, where the Constitution is not a fossilized parchment, but a dynamic expression of the people's collective aspirations. The rule of law, which is a principle enshrined in Part 7 of the Commonwealth Charter, has been embedded in India as the heritage of all mankind, which runs into like a golden thread through the fabric of the Indian Constitution, ensuring that all citizens enjoy basic human rights. The notion of rule of law plays such a critical role in Indian jurisprudence that it is a part of the inviolable basic structure of the Constitution, as our 13-bench Council bench has interpreted in Case 1 and Bharati's case. With the rule of law illuminating its path, the Supreme Court has made progressive strides across various domains, including human rights, the freedom of speech, the right to equality and equity, right of prisoners, and the right to life, advancements that collectively reflect the true spirit of the Commonwealth Charter. Given the constraints of time, I will briefly touch upon only a few subjects. The first of which is enshrined in Article 9 and 10 of the Charter of Commonwealth, outlining the commitment of member states towards promoting sustainable development and protecting the environment. The Indian Supreme Court has traced the origin of the idea of sustainable development to ancient India, where one lived in harmony with the Panch Mahabhutas, or the 5 foundational elements of nature, namely water, earth, fire, air, and space. Drawing inspiration from Article 21 of our Constitution, the Supreme Court has expanded the principles of sustainable development for the protection of Indian ecological fabric, while ensuring that development does not trample upon the fragile balance that sustains life. These judicial initiatives include reduction in industrial pollution, and improved water quality of Ganga River in MC Mehta's case, the enforcement of polluter pays principle while addressing the severe environmental pollution caused by tanneries and industries affecting the Palar River, that was Vellore citizens' case. The principle of absolute liability for industrial accidents, shaping liability standards for enterprises engaged in hazardous activities were also enforced in MC Mehta's case. The right to a healthy environment as a fundamental right under Article 21 of our Constitution was also enforced in very famous case of rural litigation and entitlement Kendra's case. The other aspect that I would like to shine a spotlight on is India's commitment to gender equality. The Supreme Court has been a vanguard in women empowerment, and its vision resonates with key Commonwealth commitments, including the Ottawa Declaration on Women 1991 and the Harare Declaration of also 1991, both of which emphasize the empowerment of women, the protection of their rights, and the active elimination of gender-based discrimination across our societies. In this spirit, India has charted a unique and transformative path. The Supreme Court dealt with the issue of exclusion of women from certain spaces as though, like where liquor is served and held, that rather than safeguarding women, these practices reinforced oppressive stereotypes that confine women to traditional roles. That was the case of Anuj Garg. In Shaira Banu, the Supreme Court held the discriminatory practice of triple talaq was illegal and it was abolished. In Muhammad Ahmad Khan Shahbano's case, Supreme Court declared that divorced women from all religious communities are entitled to maintenance. Similarly, equal inheritance rights for women have been authoritatively ensured. Furthermore, the judiciary has consistently safeguarded women's reproductive autonomy, affirming that women's control over their own body is fundamental to their dignity and their right to life, whether it is in terms of that their right to choose abortion or challenging coercive sterilization practices. Additionally, the court has acknowledged the importance of maternity benefits to ensure that women can fully participate in the workforce without compromising on their family obligations. This approach is concomitant to the principles of Harare Declaration, which emphasizes women's equal access to economic opportunities. I truly believe that we have made fundamental attempts towards understanding gender equality from a mere formal notion to one rooted in substantive justice. Very recently, we have, even in the absence of any statutory framework, made 30% reservation in bar associations exclusively for women through our judicial dictum. I would also like to point out that it's not only on judicial side. As an executive chairperson of the Supreme Court Legal Service Committee, in last 3 months, I have with a team of my officers been able to identify more than 4,200 convicts who need legal aid either for filing appeal in Supreme Court or for their release on grant of bail. We are committed that in next 1 month, before I demit the office of the Legal Service Committee, all these persons will be provided free legal aid, and we have decided to circulate a panel of all leading senior advocates of the Supreme Court who are kind enough to render pro bono services, leaving it to the choice of the convict that whom he wants to engage. This new experiment we will introduce and implement within 1 month. As you tell, the Supreme Court of India can consistently it has been the forefront of shaping the moral and ethical fabric of our society. Its landmark decisions were arrived at through the power of collaboration and consensus, which brings us to the very reason we have gathered here today. In the intrinsic tapestry of global politics, the interplay between democratic ideals and despotic governance sparks a debate that is as timeless as it is urgent. Today, we congregate we congregate to wrestle with a question of profound significance and complexity. The question is, despots and democrats, does consensus work? This question not only probes the philosophical and practical underpinnings of the politics, but also challenges the boundaries of cultural understanding and human cooperation. The growing interlinking of the global economy has created mutual interests and dependencies between nations, regardless of their political ideologies and learnings. This calls upon us to examine the fundamental tenets of democracy and despotism and assess whether these seemingly antithetical ideologies can converge in meaningful dialogue and mutual understanding. Democracy, as we celebrate and cherish, represents a political system that champions individuals' freedom, the rule of law, and the voice of the people. It is a process grounded in dialogue, negotiation, and compromise where power is dispersed and leaders are accountable to the masses. It is a political system that stands as a beacon of hope for those who dream of participation and representation in democratic system. Consensus is not merely a desirable outcome, it is the cornerstone of governance, ensuring that diverse voices are heard and interests are balanced. Conversely, despotism often embodies the concentration of power in the hands of a single entity. It's a political system driven by whims of an elite few, where decisions are made unilaterally, often in secrecy, without the need for public consensus or accountability. In a despotic regime, control leads to overshadow freedom and dissent is often quelled. The despot is frequently viewed as the antithesis of democratic ideals, standing apart from the will of people they govern. The variance between these systems raise an essential question: can democrats and despots find common ground through consensus? Can a dialogue be forged between the freedom of democracy and the control of despotism? The answer lies in the nuanced understanding of what consensus entails. True consensus requires more than mere agreement, it demands a commitment to the mutual respect and understanding. Mahatma Gandhi, the father of India nation, once said, and I quote, "Honest disagreement is often a good sign of progress," thus highlighting that through open dialogue and consensus, true advancement is achieved. As we grapple with global challenges such as climate change and economic inequalities, consensus-driven approaches are crucial in crafting sustainable solutions that are just and equitable. One of these first steps towards this consensus is acknowledgement and respecting the cultural, social, and historical context that shape political ideologies. Instead of imposing one system over another, it is crucial to identify and respect these differences. It requires an earnest effort to identify shared goals which transcend political systems. Issues like global health, climate change, counter-terrorism, trade agreements, and arms control are the areas where both democrats and despots have a common interest in collaboration. By focusing on these shared challenges, a mutually agreeable framework can be evolved. Furthermore, the global community must play a pivotal role in facilitating this dialogue. Nations with historical ties to both democratic and despotic systems can be the best bridges in fostering dialogue. Similarly, global institutions like the Commonwealth platforms can help in creating conducive environments for understanding and compromise. Naturally, achieving consensus is not without challenges. It demands effort and commitment, requiring us to transcend our biases and prejudices. It involves negotiation and compromise, which can be difficult to achieve in the face of entrenched divisions. While the path to consensus is fraught with obstacles, it also brings opportunity for progress. It offers a chance for despots to recognize the benefits of inclusive governance, where listening to the people can lead to greater stability and prosperity. For Democrats, engaging with the despotic regimes can unveil techniques to mobilize and deploy resources for long-term strategic goals, provided it is approached with caution and sincere intent. The road to consensus between despots and Democrats is undoubtedly long and arduous, yet it is not beyond reach. It demands unwavering commitment, profound empathy, and an unshakable belief in the power of dialogue. It requires leaders who are visionaries, willing to surpass personal gain for the greater good. In this pursuit, consensus becomes not only a possibility, but a testament to our shared humanity. In such an endeavor, we not only shape a more harmonious world, but also reaffirm our collective potential to rise above discord, crafting a future where the ideals of democracy can flourish alongside the realities of diverse political landscape. My friends, India and Indian judiciary is a promise of such commitment. In this vein, I propose to host and invite all of you to a joint conference of all Commonwealth platforms somewhere in February or March 2026. I leave for that to you to decide. But my invitation to all of you will be there to have one umbrella to discuss all the issues of the Commonwealth different platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, as we move forward, let us commit to nurturing a culture of consensus where the diversity of thought is celebrated and the common good is pursued. As we strive toward this noble goal, let us do so with hope and determination, for it is in the crucible of compromise and understanding that the future of our world will be forged, where despots and democrats can work together to create a brighter future for all. Thank you.